I hated doing night shifts. The biggest reason was that I tended to not have much of a life as I slept through the day. But another reason was that I sometimes had to work the shift alone. I actually preferred that though, working alone. Well, that was until this most recent shift, which I am telling you about now. It was still winter and the shop had shut quite early. I didn't have too much to get done by the morning, but it was enough to keep me occupied throughout the night. I was doing my usual thing, playing some music and sorting out the stock before putting them on the shelves. As I was making coffee, a small little break somewhere around midnight, I heard a few knocks. I shut off the music and listened intently, but nothing. No more sounds. I put the music back on as I thought it was just me being tired and sat down to enjoy the rest of the coffee. 10 minutes later, I was back to work and back to sorting stock. A few more knocks sounded again, but this time they were heavier. I quickly shut the music off and knew the sounds were coming from the back door of the shop. The thing is though, the warehouse was on the next floor up and not on the same level I was on, so the back door was upstairs. It had led onto the back of a street where other shops all joined together. So I left the music turned off for the next hour and waited for some more knocks. I even went to the bottom of the stairs now and just listened, but nothing happened for over an hour. After working a few cages, without the music being on, I had decided it was time to not sit in silence anymore. Clearly I was just tired. I flipped the switch, and just before I clicked play on my phone, the back door banged this time. I ran up the stairs and flung open the back door. I was a confident guy. "Hello?" I asked. Outdoors, even though it led onto a main road, there was a little blind spot behind the door where I couldn't see unless I actually stepped outside. And even if I did, it was complete blackness, and so just avoid stepping outside altogether. Nobody was there. I shut the door, took a deep breath, took a step back before I knocked again. I quickly opened the door, but again, nothing. This time I actually stepped outside and looked into the darkness. I heard someone whisper to me, "Hey you, come here, come have some fun with me." It was a man's voice, and I quickly just shut the door again. This time, the banging turned into pounding as I could hear the guy screaming at the door, telling me he wants to just have fun and I should come and play. I ended up going back down to the shop floor, and I guess now you'd be hoping for something more to happen, but it didn't. It actually turned back into a normal night shift for me. I was paranoid by the knocking, and it didn't end up finishing all my work, as I intently listened to every sound. I never played music for the rest of the night. When people started turning up for the shift, I told them about this weird guy who was screaming and banging at the door, trying to have some fun and to play. They thought I was joking, and so we headed to the back of the warehouse and looked down the nook where that guy whispered to me. We found some syringes and a couple of black bags. They weren't there before, as it's a very strict rule to keep all outside clean and clear. They still didn't believe me though. I think I did that as some sort of prank, as we do actually sell black bags and toy syringes. But I asked for less night shifts that same day, and also asked to have someone to work with me during the night shifts if I had to do them again. Thankfully, I have not worked alone in the nights. I would like to say this happened during the night. You know, give it that creepy vibe. But it didn't. It actually happened towards the end of the day as the sun was beginning to set. So I guess you could say it was going to be dark soon enough. I worked in the shop literally in the middle of nowhere. It was just a small convenience store that was placed on the main road surrounded by mountains. It was a way for people to grab some quick snacks or use the bathroom before carrying on the journey. Most of the people that came into the store were families who mainly wanted to grab drinks and use the bathroom. I'm the type to chuck my headphones in and block the world out, even if the manager drilled it into my head that was never to happen. On this shift, no, I wasn't blocking the world out, and the bell to the main door sounded, notifying me someone had just come in. I headed back to the till to await the customer. It was a woman. She looked a little scruffy, like she had been hiking but hadn't dressed appropriately for the hike. She walked up and down each aisle, staring at me without blinking. Her eyes seemed off, like she wasn't present, if that makes any sense. Is there anything I can help you with? I asked as she comes into view periodically. She never answered and never picked anything up. Bit weird, I told myself, before getting back to stocking the shelves. My boss was a real strict person who wanted the shop to always be full, and so I didn't have time for this woman to be pacing back and forth without ever choosing anything. So as I knelt down to finish the kind of box I was on, my back to the aisle, this woman was actually standing right next to me. Now, I'm not talking at a nice comfortable distance. I mean, she was right next to me. Her body was literally touching mine. "Can I help you?" I stammered, this time slightly annoyed. "Bathroom. Where's the bathroom?" she stumbled, speaking like a heavy smoker. I pointed down to the corner of the shop in the hope she saw the sign labelling the toilets, but I ended up having to get up and walk her to the toilet myself. "In here," I said, as she kept eye contact with me, walking into the other room for the toilet. I walked back to my cage to grab a new box to work, and that's how I stayed for what must have been an hour. I finished the cage, emptied the cardboard, and was ready to start the next cage when I remembered the woman. She hadn't come out. I would have seen her, and the bell would have sounded if she left. I walked into the next room and stood outside the door labelled for women. "Excuse me," I said. "Are you okay?" No answer. I didn't feel comfortable going into the bathroom, and so I just let it slide for a few more minutes as I needed to use the bathroom too. I went into the men's, closed the store door, and sat on a toilet. I tend to take a while in the bathroom, and so I sat patiently waiting, only to hear the door to the bathroom squeaked open and closed shut. There was another store next to mine, and I heard someone enter. Great, I thought to myself. Another customer, I'm not at the till. I tried rushing so it wasn't long, but I couldn't help but notice the complete silence. Now, I'm not expecting conversation or anything like that, but I mean this was an eerie silence. Literally nothing. I sat, wondering why nothing could be heard, when I heard a very soft giggle coming from the store next to mine. I looked over as the voice sounded feminine. I was about to say something, and then I heard it again. Another giggle. I looked up to the top of the store. Nobody was there. This was freaking me out now. I was sure it sounded like it was above me. And then I heard it. "Down here," a voice said. I looked down, and this woman was looking under the stall. I screamed, jumping to my feet, quickly rushing out of the bathroom. She didn't follow me, and I quickly ran the police. I ran outside, get into my car, though my car tires had been slashed. I still hadn't seen this woman come out of the shop, so I hid behind the nearest tree and waited. Then I heard the woman rush out of the shop. My breathing was heavy as I scooted down further, watching as she called out words I couldn't understand. She rushed over to my car, banging at the windows before the police finally arrived, and she ran into the woods in the opposite direction to myself. The police didn't catch her, and so she got away. I refused to work another shift there, and handed in my notice. This is more of a short story. I'm a girl and worked a night shift alone in a very small family-run business for the first time. I always worked hard and was looking forward to working without customers interrupting. Most of the night went smoothly, but around 4 AM there was a man at the front door. There was frosted glass so he couldn't see in, and I couldn't see out, but he kept knocking at the door. "Let me in, I need some supplies. My family are desperate." He seemed like a nice enough normal guy. I replied saying that the store is closed and he should come back in the morning. The light was on, so he obviously knew someone was inside, hence my reply. "Please, I beg you," he kept repeating. I was stern and adamant. Usually I am so easily persuaded, but my dad was very strict on business hours. "Sorry, I heard a glass break at the back of the shop. I knew it to be the back window. Before going into the back of the shop, there is a door just to the right where I and my dad live. Yes, we live above the shop." I looked back to the front door and the man was now gone. I quickly dropped the box in my hand and ran over to the back to see a man rush in to try and unlock the back door. I ran through the other door to wake my dad up. Dad! Dad! I was panicking. "Someone is breaking into the shop." He shot up and told me to call the police as he grabbed a baseball bat that sat by the door leading down to the shop. He smiled and said everything would be okay. I knew he was just trying to be comforting as he stood by the door listening. We could hear things being dropped, broken, two men talking, before we heard a knock at our door. My dad grabbed the bat tighter as he waited for them to enter. They turned the doorknob, but then stopped when the police yelled at them to put their hands up. They must have been close by. I never heard of the police turning up so quickly before. My dad opened the door a few minutes later and I walked over to see the two men being handcuffed. My dad found out that one of them had a knife, and the police said we were lucky. I'm no longer allowed to be working nights on my own again.